Unity was achieved. It's not clear how long it will last. Simon McGregor Wood, TRT World, Biarritz.
For more on all of this, we have Hilton Root in the studio. He's a professor at George Mason University. Hilton, it was an interesting summit, not quite what everybody expected, not as divisive necessarily as everybody expected. In fact, I was reading some of the headlines. World leaders may have found a way to handle Trump. America's allies seem to be moving on without Trump. What was your headline for the G7 summit?
Well, learning how to manage Trump.
So how do you think leaders, talk to me a little bit about the dynamic and how you think they did that this time around?
Well, they did it by keeping him out of many of the discussions in which they knew he would disagree. They also did it by not having a final statement that he would have to sign on to. So it was more a personal style. The personal style of the French president and this American president are very complementary. They're completely different, but together they seem to not conflict very much.
One of the positive outcomes of this summit seems to be the optimistic tone that we saw from U.S. President Donald Trump and sort of the orchestration of this by the French President Emmanuel Macron, and that is U.S.-Iran tensions. There's been a lot of concerns about the conflict in the Gulf, and it appears that there may be some sort of, I guess, appetite for a new deal with Iran and the United States on the horizon.
Well, I think the message that the president has been trying to communicate to the Europeans is they have to take more of a lead on this. They have to take more responsibility for this. It's really in their place where this is all happening. So, and they seem to be finally getting that message. So I think that was probably a surprise. I don't think people expected Iran to take center place in this particular meeting, but it did.
Certainly on the minds of leaders at the G7 was the concern about the global economic slowdown. Did you hear enough optimism when it came to, I guess, prospects for a U.S.-China trade deal, and where do you think things will evolve from here?
Well, that's very much still not clear. The trade, the U.S. and the Chinese are still very, very far apart. Where there may have been some reconciliation is the Europeans realize that the consequences of this will be very bad for them. And so they may seek to cooperate more directly with the U.S. on dealing with China.
When you look at the way the G7 summit ended in 2018, and you look at the meeting this year in 2019, where would you say the G7 is today? What is the role of the group at this point?
Well, I think they realize that they have to deal with Trump. They can't really confront him and expect to win. And the landscape has changed in a way that he's influenced that change. So they have to play more or less in the arena that he's created according to rules and protocol that is basically he's established. So you really see his influence has been much more pervasive than it initially was, where they thought they could just fight him all the way and win some kind of public recognition for that. I think they gave up on that. They realized they have to cooperate and they have to manage Trump.
Hilton Root, great to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, staying with the G7 summit, leaders have also agreed to provide legal and financial support to help Brazil and neighboring countries to fight fires burning in the Amazon. The severity of those fires and Brazil's response have been met with global criticism. French President Emmanuel Macron says the funds will be available immediately and will mostly go toward more firefighting planes. Sally Ihan has the story.
The burning Amazon has been called a global crisis and a climate catastrophe. And leaders at the G7 summit in France agreed on a $22 million aid package to fight the fires. The announcement followed a meeting focused on the environment and biodiversity. US President Donald Trump didn't attend, but French President Emmanuel Macron says he's been